Alright, so in this video, I'm pretty much going to break down the Kindle versus books for reading, what I prefer and why, the pros and cons to both. So as of late, I got a Kindle for Christmas and I've been reading through it. I've been reading through like mangas, I've been reading through various books, and now I think I've got a pretty good gist of what I prefer and why. For the longest time, I haven't really wanted to go to Kindle because I enjoyed the idea of just reading books on paper. I'm pretty old-fashioned that way, and I hated the idea of the way the screen would kind of interfere, and I didn't think the screen would be very good because, you know, I hated looking at stuff like that through a phone or through a computer screen, and I felt like it would take away from the magic of finishing a book. But I'll provide you with like the pros and cons of both, starting with books. So pretty much with the books, the pros, you know, you get the old-fashioned feeling of the paper. It feels good. It feels good to turn the pages. It feels good to put it on the shelf once you've completed it. That's something that I quite like doing. I like having my bookshelf and then sort of stacking my trophies when they're finished. Very satisfying, and I enjoy doing it. Also, you can kind of like lend them out, borrow them. It's easy to sort of share the experience. You can't really do that with a Kindle, but that's pretty much it. I think the main thing you have is the whole authenticity vibe of actually reading something off, you know, off paper, and that's kind of it really. You know, the novelty is not really a novelty anymore, but the actual appeal of reading a book and the feeling that feels is kind of all there is. But in regards to the cons, I'll kind of explain that when I compare it to the Kindle. Essentially with the Kindle, it's honestly blown me away. I've been banging it out. I've been taking it, you know, before bed, been taking it to the bathroom. It's been with me pretty much all the time. Because of the screen, it's quite easy to read. I didn't think that it'd be that good, but it is really good. And the reason for that is because of the e-ink that Amazon uses for the screen. Something else that I kind of noticed is that reading from a Kindle was a lot nicer on the hand, because typically books kind of weigh a lot, not in the instant that you've got it, but with a prolonged period of time and you're flicking through the pages, your wrist starts to ache a little bit. We're not really evolved to carry things like that in our wrists. It's just not really a thing. But all in all, it's a lot more comfortable to hold the Kindle in the hand, and I quite enjoy it a lot more. And the next obvious one is obviously the quantity of books and mangas in my case that you can hold, up to thousands of them, and the feeling of kind of turning the page is quite nice because you kind of see the page, you kind of see the page fade out and fade in, which I think is quite nice. And also the fact that you can adjust the font size is great. Fortunately, my eyesight hasn't really deteriorated yet, so I don't really need to have it on a very big font, but when I'm walking around I kind of need it on big font, or I'm in the car, because when you're in the car it's a bit shaky, it's kind of hard to focus. But the fact that you have that option, which you don't have with a book, is absolutely brilliant. I also find that I can actually read a lot longer on the Kindle. For that is, I think it's a psychological thing, but the idea that you've turned through those pages and you can physically see how far you come in the book, which is a good thing, it's quite cool to see. But for me, once I've seen that I've read a certain amount of pages, my brain says, all right, you've done enough now, you can kind of stop. Whereas with the Kindle, you don't really have that indication. So when you are reading, I just keep going and going and going and going, which is another cool thing also, is that if there's words that you don't really know or understand, it has like a dictionary feature. So if you highlight the word you don't know, you can learn it. Great. And you can make notes on the things that you want to highlight and keep, which is fantastic if you're doing any academic work, or if you're just doing any self-help work and you want to kind of reference back to this stuff later. I think it's brilliant. Obviously the biggest benefit of all, of course, is not having to carry a shit ton of books with you all the time if you need to flip through books. Before, it was fine because I'd be the sort of person where I would finish a book, then move on to the next one. I wouldn't really flip-flop through books. Now, because I have the Kindle, I can be like, all right, I feel like a bit of fiction right now, I feel like a little bit of non-fiction, bit of manga. I can kind of cycle through them, and that ease of experience makes me a lot more likely to do that, which is not something I had experienced before. And I think the beauty of having such a small device and being able to take it everywhere with you and have so many different options is just hours of entertainment. And another thing is that I forgot to mention is the fact that you can also have audiobooks on it as well, which is great, because you might think, oh, what's the point, because my phone can do it. Sure, I tried it with my phone, I couldn't do it. Reason being is because my phone is just too distracting. Like, I would always go on it for some reason or whatever. But with the Kindle, I can play the audiobook, turn my phone off, and just completely zone out and just enjoy the book. And for some reason, my attention span is just better. I don't know, that's my reason for it. Maybe one of you guys will give me something better, but that's what I've kind of figured out. All in all, so you have like comics, manga, books, audiobooks, all in this tiny little device. Feels like I'm kind of selling it to you now, but to be honest, if you do want to get it, I do recommend it. I think this video is also specifically for people who were like me, kind of like would swear by their physical books because they just don't want to join the digital age in that respect. But there's still, I believe it still is a place for physical books in my life now, but I think especially another thing is when I start going traveling and things like that, I'm going to need to have the Kindle, because there's no way in hell I'm carrying all these books with me. It's just, I need to carry light as it is, and having to get all these things with me when I can just have it on this tiny little device that also has a fantastic battery life. So there's no real issue in regards to longevity or anything like that. I'm a big fan of the Kindle, as you can probably tell. Amazon should probably be sponsoring me for this video, so Amazon, if you're watching this, please sponsor me. If not, please sponsor me, because I'm kind of low on funds here. That'd be great. But yeah, I definitely recommend getting a Kindle if you're into books, reading, manga, or comics, even like I am. God Almighty is changed my life. Those of you that I've spoken to about it, you kind of know how it's affected me, and I'm just on it. I think the greatest thing of all is that the screen really doesn't hurt your eyes, and it's just like kind of like reading a book or reading it in physical terms. And I think that was the main thing I didn't want to sacrifice. But after actually experiencing the device itself, I'm all on board. I'm here for this. A little quick one, how I feel about the whole Kindle book debate. In my opinion, Kindle all the way, much better. Still a place for books. I think if you kind of have your own place and you want to have that like aesthetic of completed books that you've had, again, that's way nicer than just finishing a book and whatever. I do think that there's like a nice pride aspect with a book. When you finish it, you can just sort of have the shelf and have like a physical representation of what you've read, which is great. You don't have that with a Kindle. But in my particular stage of my life, Kindle's the way to go. Once I get my old grandfather shelf, whatever, then I'll be doing it. But yes, this has gone on way too long. Hope you guys have enjoyed. More soon, yada yada, you've heard it before. Bye.